Hi everyone, Stepan here. I have white again. Kingy, what? Okay, 2000 blitz, 2150 rapid. Let's see what happens. Yeah, I went d4. I'm gonna be playing d4 for a while. He made a move. Let's see. Last game I had a Benoni. This is a Queen's Indian hybrid. Okay, let's go knight c3. Now, whether I play with f3 or not remains to be seen. I like playing with f3, but I don't have to. If I go queen c2, he's going e6 and bishop b4. So I could choose to go queen c2, e6, a3. Or I could just go f3. I could also just go knight f3. I like queen c2. I'm gonna go queen c2. g6. So he's playing a hippo. What's he playing? If I go e4, does he have d5 or e5? So e4, d5 takes. No. e4, e5, d5 seems okay. I'm going e4. I don't see why not. Okay, he is playing a hippo. So let's go bishop e2. And because I want to prevent knight g4. And then I'll go bishop e3. This is a weird system. I've never played this against the hippo, and I'm not used to having a knight on f6 for black in the hippo. Okay, c5 makes sense. So does d5. Yeah, I think d5 has to be correct. I do open up the bishop, but at least I block in the light squared one. So d5 makes sense. Okay, he has the e5 square for the knight, so I either go knight f3 or f4. If I go f4, what does he do? If I go knight f3, he goes knight g4. So I could consider f4. But then he probably plays e6. And then we're in a standard sort of... Well, we're not in a standard Benoni. I want to go f4. But he may have bishop h6 there. Followed by knight h5. If knight f3, knight g4, bishop f4, I don't like that. So if I go h3, and he goes knight e5, I still could go knight f3 there. So I'm gonna go h3. I wanna prevent knight g4, save my bishop on this square, and then go knight f3. Firstly, I would like him to commit his king. a5. I don't understand this. I don't have any idea what black is doing. a5 seems pretty bad to me. Unless, well, unless nothing, because e4 is defended. Now the question is still, do I go knight f3 or f4? I'm gonna go knight f3 because that's more sensible. e4 is defended. e5 is defended. If knight h5, I could go g4 even. At some point I think he has to play e6. Okay, now do I go a4, just preventing all nonsense with b5? b5 is defended for the moment. So if I castle and he goes knight e4, I can take. If I castle and he goes bishop c4, I can take. If I castle and he goes b5, I can take. So it all seems okay to me. So I'm just gonna castle. If he takes on d5, I take. Okay. That's definitely a bad bishop on a6. So how do we keep it bad? We move the rook and go b3. And I want my rook on the d file anyway, because I want to go e5, d6. Why don't I understand his moves? It feels very strange to play when I don't understand somebody's moves. I don't understand anything he's doing. Okay, so I'm just gonna go b3. Preventing any nonsense with a4 or b5, and then I'll see what he does, because again, I don't understand his moves. I want to see what he wants to do. b3 is a useful move, for sure. He wants to go e6. Okay, now I know what he wants to do. He wants to go e6. If I go queen c1, he goes king h7. And then I have bishop f4, followed by e5. I could go bishop f4 immediately, but then knight h5, bishop h2. Still, I feel like preventing e6 should be a priority here. So I like bishop f4. Okay, I'm going bishop f4. It also frees up the e file for my rook. My knight is loose on c3 if my queen moves. I have to pay attention to that. So now on e6 I take on d6. I don't know if I take on e6 first and then take on d6, but okay. Bishop h2. If he ever puts a piece into e5 and that ends up with one of his pawns on e5, that's good for me. You could have seen that in the last game. e6 is still prevented. On g4 I can play e5. So g4, knight f6, e5, d5, knight e5, knight e5, bishop e5. Breaking through. But then I'm not playing against his bishop on a6 anymore. So I think I go rook fe1 first. And I want to go bishop d3 for sure. So that on e5 I have bishop g6 sacrifices. Which, if the bishop isn't there, would actually threaten the knight on h5. If I can play bishop e5 in the end. So I want to go rook fe1 and bishop d3 and e5. If he plays f6, I have e5. pretty hard for him to make a move. Okay, now the question is, bishop d3 first or e5? e5, d5, knight e5, knight e5, bishop e5. If knight d7, I take on g7. So e5, d5, knight e5. He has to take. No, rook e1 first. Rook e1 first. Let's defend this bishop. I don't like the fact that my queen is overworked and defending the bishop and the knight. This way I'm not losing a piece in any variation. And it's not like he can prevent e5 because he just played knight h5, knight f6. So if I have time to go bishop d3 and then e5. Okay, now, do I go bishop d3 first? Can he play knight e5? So bishop d3, knight e5. No, he cannot. I'm going bishop d3 first. I want to be on this pawn on g6. Knight back to h5. Okay. So now surely it's time to play e5. The question is, do I play g4 first? So e5, d5, knight e5, knight e5, bishop e5, bishop e5, rook e5. What's that position like? Can I improve my position before I do that? So do I go g4 or e5? So g4, knight f6, e5. I like g4. Yeah, I'm going g4 first. I want to misplace this knight. And then I'll go e5. I don't think I'm weakening myself too much because I don't see a clear way for his pieces to get to my king. What is he thinking about? Okay. e5. Oh, I love my pieces. Look at this. Okay. So I have bishop g7, king g7, bishop g6, fg6, rook e6. Then he plays knight f6. I go knight e4. He takes, I take with the queen. Okay, I'm taking. I don't want to retreat my bishop. Now bishop g6, fg6, rook e6, knight f6, knight e4. But he doesn't have to take on e4. Okay, for the moment he doesn't have e6. Not yet. So how can I improve my position? If he didn't have knight f6, I'd be winning now. Let's try again. Bishop g6, fg6, rook e6, knight f6. Doesn't work. It doesn't work. So let's get my knight into play. If he goes e6 now, I can just play knight d6. This is the only piece that isn't participating in the attack for now. Why am I down to 5 minutes? Come on. I want to go knight g3 and give myself the option to go knight f5 or knight h5. I'm still playing against the bad bishop on b7, and until he's able to play e6, that bishop is going to stay bad. Oh, but he has knight e5. Maybe. I do have queen c3, and then on f6 I play bishop b1, defending the f3 square. Yeah, knight e5 seems pretty risky if his only response is f6. Because f6 would weaken g6 irreparably. If he plays knight f6, I could go queen c3. Wow, okay. I saw this. So I thought I could go queen c3. And then move my bishop away to cover f3 check. Okay. And then follow that up with f4. Giving away the f5 square. Surely knight g3 is great here. And an exchange sack on e5. This has to be good for me. I'm just threatening rook takes e5. And I'm threatening queen c2. I don't even care about the exchange. Because he's getting mated on h7. I did not expect g5. That seems incredibly bad. Okay, so rook e5, fe5, queen e5. Where does the king go? The king has to go to g8, that's the only square. Otherwise I take the rook. Yeah, I'm just taking, I don't even want to think about it. If this isn't good, then I don't know anything about chess. This has to be correct. King g8 forced. And then I just go bishop f5. Or maybe even queen e6. Yeah, queen e6 leads to mate, I feel. So queen e6. King f8 is forced. Oh no, I can just go knight h5, because on queen f8 I have... No, I don't have queen e6 check. Maybe knight f5. Okay, let's calculate this. So queen e6, he has to go king f8. Then if I go rook d3, okay, let's start with knight h5. Knight h5, queen f8 is the only move. Okay, I'm going queen e6 first. I don't want to allow queen f8. And then bishop g6. Seems like game over. Can he do anything? No. Yeah, I didn't see this before. Okay. Yeah, now queen g8 is mate. He doesn't have a single move. Or if king e8, then bishop g6 is mate. This is gonna be checkmate. All right, nice. Woohoo! Okay, let's analyze. Yeah, somebody said in the chat, queen f8 defense great resource. I don't know where, but we will see. Okay, so let's see. Queen's Indian accelerated, and then I don't know g6. Okay. Two games from here. Let's turn on the engine. White is better, but that seems reasonable considering how much space I have. Okay, a5 is a mistake. Knight f3 is good. g4 was good, but I castled. Rook a1 is best. Knight h4 immediately on g6. That's interesting. But I wanted to see what he would do. Okay, he's just doing nothing. Bishop d3 is a mistake. I should have gone e5 straight away. Yeah, e5 is always a move, but I couldn't see what he does to prevent e5 if I go bishop d3. So okay, e5 is definitely fine. I saw this, I was calculating this, and it seems okay. But why is bishop d3 bad? Because he plays e5? Wow. He plays e5 because I blocked my rook. I can no longer take on d6. Okay, knight h5. Okay, g4 best, e5 best. Finally breaking through. Bishop f4 was best, but I took on g7, which is still great. And then I played knight e4. Here's what I was calculating. Bishop takes, pawn takes, and rook e6. But he has knight f6. And now I couldn't see what to do. I thought if I go knight e4, he just doesn't have to take it, which is correct. He plays bishop c8. The engine says knight e2. What happens on bishop c8? Oof, knight f4 is deadly. I wish I'd seen this. Okay, but I went knight e4, and now queen c3, f6, bishop b1, g5. Knight takes g5. Well, let's see this. I played knight g3, which is fine, but knight takes g5, h takes g5, rook takes e5, immediately sacrificing. Yeah, still mate. I went knight g3. Yeah, now rook e5. Queen e6 check and bishop g6. At which point did he have queen f8? Somebody said in the chat queen f8 great defense, but I don't see it. So I was trying to make knight h5 work, but I couldn't see what to do after queen f8. But yeah, just bishop f5 is fine. Yeah, this is the quickest. I did not see bishop g6 immediately. Yeah, king g7 just fails to knight h5 and then still... wait, why wouldn't I go bishop g6? I don't get queen f5 check. Okay, knight g7 mate, and here, yeah, queen g6. Okay. Okay, I'm happy with this game. I made a few mistakes, but they weren't too serious. Okay, so thank you for watching. I hope you got something from the game. Stay tuned for more chess. Bye bye.